For more, I'm now joined by Democratic strategist and former New York State Senator David Carlucci, and then Republican strategist Katie Frost. Good morning to both of you. Always good to have you. Katie, let me just start with you. Just the mix of wins and losses yesterday, but also a couple of pretty significant wins for President Trump the week before. How would you characterize how he's doing so far and what this means for his agenda the last 2.5 years in term?
Well, it's great to be with you again, Marky. Good morning. When you look at what's happening at the court, what I would say the real takeaway here is look at what the mandate the voters gave President Trump. President Trump was very clear what he was running on and what he was going to do as president, and he received an overwhelming mandate from the voters to carry that out. But here we are over 1.5 years into his term, and people are looking and waiting for some results on certain issues because so much has been tied up in the courts. That's why it's important to get these decisions handed down. We already saw the important decision on the FTC ruling with Slaughter yesterday. That's going to deal with this constant bureaucratic state, the swamp, as President Trump likes to call it. The other thing we say in D.C., there's an expression, the weebies. We be here before the president and we be here after the president. With every administration, there are bureaucrats who think it doesn't matter what the American people voted for. They get to stay in power forever. And that's no longer going to happen because of this decision. Or we look at what's going to be handed down today. Issues like birthright citizenship came up during the campaign trail, and the issue that biological males should not compete against biological females. This is a massive 80-20 issue. President Trump campaigned on it, but here we are almost 18 months in. We're still having to wait for the court to give us the green light.
I mean, just huge rulings today. I also had never heard of weebies before, so thanks for teaching me something new. David, you also look at yesterday. Justice Amy Coney Barrett writing the majority opinion for the mail-in voting case. I guess this kind of, I don't know, would you say it quiets critics who are critical of the Supreme Court, who think, Trump has cherry-picked the justices, they're only there to do his bidding. How do you see things, especially after some of the losses he's been dealt?
Yeah, a lot of these issues are just solutions in search of a problem. Look, birthright citizenship. I mean, what are we talking about? This has been in place for 150 years, and is one of the reasons how we've built America into one of the greatest superpowers the world has ever seen. We have the American promise that if you're born here, we're not doing all this paperwork and bureaucracy to figure out who your parents were or are. This is a problem, and it's right in the face of what Republicans have railed against for years, the bureaucracy, the government. And Donald Trump is trying to find all these ways to increase the bureaucracy. So these are just solutions in search of a problem. The same with voting. The fact that the president keeps saying that the Save America Act is the most important piece of legislation when all it is voter suppression. And the Americans are catching on to this. People are catching on to this. They're seeing that the president is desperate. He knows he's having one loss after the other. The things that people really cared about on the campaign trail and what made a difference, like the economy, the president is failing. He's going back on the things that he campaigned on that resonated, like America First, no foreign wars, make a dent on inflation, reduce prices. None of those things have happened. In fact, it's been the opposite. So this is a big problem for the president, but it's a bigger problem for American residents. And I hope that the Supreme Court continues to fight through the partisanship and do what's right for American residents and citizens.
We will see what they decide on these major cases today. The other thing, just lastly, before I let you go, that I wanted to ask you, there's this growing divide between the MAGA and establishment factions of the Republican Party. NewsNation's Anna Koyman just sat down with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about outgoing Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy and his claims that the secretary broke promises he made to the senator for his confirmation vote. Cassidy himself is a doctor. Take a listen to what he just told Anna.
I went through every promise that I made to them, and I've kept them all. I think, I won't speculate as to why Senator Cassidy is saying those things. I think anybody can make that speculation. But what he's saying is not true.
Katie, let me ask you first, just what do you make of these comments and kind of the feud back and forth between RFK and Cassidy? And is there a schism within the GOP?
growing pains in every single party. But I'll tell you this, every single day when I look at what's happening in America, I would take the growing pains between the MAGA wing, if you will, of the Republican Party, and the more establishment figures who've been around forever, like Senator Cassidy, versus what's going on in the Democratic Party. In the Republican Party, you see people who are more traditionalist and don't like complete wholesale change, and you see people who were elected to make a significant difference to the American people under the promise of making America great again. And then on the Democratic side, you have Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries looking like they're substitute teachers trying to take roll call during a prison riot, and they have their own party now having members who are calling for the abolition of prisons, not of police, of prisons. We have people radically saying they want to undermine Western civilization running as Democrats. So I'll take what's going on in the Republican Party twice a day on Sundays, and if you go once again the Democratic Party.
David, I'll give you final word. Your response, and what should Democrats' game plan be to kind of capitalize on a feud like this?
Yeah, the wind is at the back of Democrats. We see that when there's an opportunity for voters to pick a Democrat or a Republican, they're picking the Democrat overwhelmingly. And that's just in rebuke to the failed promises of this president and the GOP. And I'll juxtapose what's happening in the Democratic Party. We're having vigorous debates about how to move our country forward and solve the problems of our day, not these solutions in search of problems that the president is putting forward. And the problem with the Republican Party is if you disagree with the president, like releasing the Epstein files, then you're just kicked out of the party. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look at Senator Cassidy. These are people that have served in the Republican Party, have been leaders in the Republican Party, but because they have a disagreement, it's not that they are then basically excommunicated from the Republican Party. That's a problem. The Democrats have a big tent. The Republicans are just becoming one person. At the end of the day, that's a problem because Americans have no idea what the Republicans stand for. It's just the whims of the president, and that's a long-term problem.
I've got to end it there, but David Carlucci, Katie Frost, thank you both so much for being with me and giving us your perspectives. Always appreciate having you on, guys.
Great to be with you.
You as well. Talk to you again soon.